What if I told you that everything you're chasing, success, love, healing, is already yours in a higher dimension, waiting only for your recognition? Welcome to Lesson 3, Thinking Fourth Dimensionally. This is not theory, this is the law. Have you ever imagined something so vividly that for a moment you felt it was real? I recall once sitting alone in my small New York apartment, desperately desiring to change my circumstances. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even have clarity on how the change would come. But I had the one thing that mattered. I had a vision. Not in the future, but in the now. I imagined myself walking through a grand hallway, hearing my footsteps echo on marble floors, shaking hands with someone who called me sir in a tone of deep respect. I was not that man in the outer world, but I was within. I persisted. I remained faithful to that state, not a fantasy, but a dimension of reality I had chosen to dwell in. Weeks passed, and my external life began shifting as though it were rearranging itself to match that inner script. The opportunity, the voice, the place. I found myself in that marble hallway. It was never created, it always existed. I had simply entered the state. To think fourth dimensionally is to think from the end, the version of you that already has what you seek. Love, wealth, healing exists now, not later. Time, as perceived in 3 dimensions, is a sequence, but the 4th dimension collapses time and space. All states exist, and the key is to enter the state of the wish fulfilled. You're not moving toward your desire, you're moving within it. Most see the present moment as reality, but what we call now is just one branch of many. By reimagining your concept of self, you shift dimensions. The 4th dimensional thinker sees the present as plastic, malleable, waiting to be reshaped by imagination. Inner reality overrides outer fact. You cannot experience what you are not conscious of being. If you desire success but assume lack, you remain bound to it. To change your outer world, you must first revise your inner self-concept. Speak from the end. Walk as if, think as if. The universe mirrors not what you want, but what you are. Your inner dialogue is a script. What are you rehearsing inwardly? Despair, conflict, rejection? These conversations crystallize as circumstances. 4th dimensional thinking demands that you discipline your mind to accept only the truth of your assumption. Think as one already fulfilled. Feel it real. Linear time is a convenience, not a truth. All outcomes already exist in the field. What you feel now, deeply and repeatedly, pulls the corresponding timeline into visibility. You don't need more time. You need a change in perception. You collapse time by assuming the future in the present. Imagination is not a child's play. It is divine activity. When you visualize with emotion, you are creating. Every image held in your consciousness impresses itself on the unseen world. Those impressions, once repeated and believed, externalize. You're not hoping. You are forming reality. A 4th dimensional thinker is not a visitor to the state. He lives in it. Repetition stabilizes. Feeling the wish fulfilled again and again reconditions the mind to accept it as natural. What is natural becomes normal, and what is normal must appear. You will be tested by facts, yes. But facts are shadows of former beliefs. Your current world is a reflection of past assumptions. Don't argue with shadows. Assume a new reality and remain loyal to it. Persistence in the assumption, even in the face of contradiction, is the only path. To understand what it truly means to think 4th dimensionally, one must grasp the bold truth that the end already exists. It is not something to be created or earned by effort. It is something to be entered. In this new dimension of thought, the end is not a destination on the line of time, but a state of consciousness you can occupy at will. The outer world, the realm of effects, is always one step behind the inner world. The inner world is the realm of causes, and it operates independently of logic or linear sequence. In three-dimensional thinking, man considers only what his senses confirm. He sees the lack, he feels the absence, and he judges by what is visible. But in the fourth dimension, man thinks from what is already accomplished. The fourth dimension does not require visible evidence, it requires inner conviction. All things exist. This is the foundation. Every possibility, every version of reality you can imagine already is. The life you long to live, the love you yearn to feel, the wealth you dream of holding, they are all states. And a state is not an achievement. A state is a position of consciousness, like a room in a great mansion. You may not be in that room right now, but that does not deny its existence. To reach it, you do not build it, you enter it. You do not beg for it, you dwell in it mentally until the physical world is compelled to conform. When you assume the end, when you feel the joy of already having that which you desire, you move beyond causality and enter creative certainty. You no longer work for the outcome. You work from the outcome. What most fail to understand is that the end is not a thing, it is a frequency, a vibration of consciousness, and your own emotional state is the signal that reveals whether or not you are living from it. Do you feel the relief of completion, or are you trapped in the frustration of waiting? The man who lives in the end feels no tension. He is no longer seeking. He is no longer trying. He is being. He does not ask how, for he knows that all means are born within the assumption. All people, circumstances, and conditions are drawn into place when one occupies the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The outer world will always reflect the inner world. That is the law. If you live in anxiety, the world will mirror uncertainty. If you live in confidence, the world must display harmony. Your task is not to force results. Your task is to remain loyal to the end. Now consider this. Why is it that two men facing the same circumstance produce two entirely different outcomes? One rises, one falls. It is not environment. It is not opportunity. It is the dimension of consciousness each man abides in. The one who rises may see only what is possible. He does not debate facts. He surrenders to imagination. He has entered the state. The man who falls may labor harder, argue longer, and struggle more, but he has not moved internally. He has not shifted into the end. Therefore, all his outer effort is met with resistance. To live from the end is to walk in the identity of one who already possesses the desired reality. You must think like them, speak like them, act like them, not as performance, but as nature. When the assumption becomes natural, manifestation becomes inevitable. The outer world is always catching up to the reality you've accepted within. And it will come not by might or manipulation, but by law. The law of consciousness ensures that what you believe and accept as real within will appear without. Not because you are wishing, but because you are aligned. In the fourth dimensional way of thinking, there is no waiting. Waiting belongs to time, but the fourth dimension collapses time. If you feel that your manifestation is coming, you are not in the end. You are in anticipation, and anticipation is rooted in lack. The true end is already done. It is complete. You carry yourself differently when it is done. You walk with a stillness, not haste. You feel with gratitude, not desperation. This is not performance, this is truth. When you close your eyes and dwell in the end, you are building the unseen bridge. It may seem silent, it may feel like nothing is changing, but that inner act, repeated faithfully, plants the seed, and all seeds grow after their own kind. The man who remains in the state will see the state take form. The only work required is mental fidelity. Dwell in the end. See yourself as the man who already is. Talk to yourself as the woman who already has. Let others doubt. Let appearances mislead. You will not be shaken, for you have moved into the state of the wish fulfilled, and no power in heaven or on earth can withhold from you what is already yours in consciousness. It is yours now. Not tomorrow, not later, but now. The end already exists. You need only enter it and remain. The present moment, as perceived by most, is considered the ultimate reality, the undeniable fact of existence. It is what the senses report, what the eyes see, and what the ears hear. But this viewpoint is limited. It is confined to the narrow band of experience we call the three-dimensional world. In that world, time moves in a straight line, and events appear sequential. You wake, you walk, you work, and you rest, all in the illusion of forward motion. But to think fourth dimensionally is to rise above this illusion and realize that the present is only one possibility among infinite potentials. It is a chosen frame, not a fixed fate. Every moment you observe, every event you accept as true is simply one version among many. The world you live in today is not the only world available to you. In the high dimension, there exists a multitude of realities, each shaped by the state of consciousness that perceives it. One may walk the path of failure while another stands in victory, yet both paths exist simultaneously. What separates the two is not time, effort, or circumstances. It is perception. When a man thinks fourth dimensionally, he does not ask, what is happening now, but instead asks, what am I accepting now as real? And in that shift of question lies the power to change everything. When you limit yourself to what the senses tell you, you become a prisoner of the visible world. You respond to appearances, you react to facts, and you shape your beliefs based on what seems to be. But the moment you withdraw your attention from the visible and place it firmly on the invisible, on what could be, you enter a new dimension of power. You begin to think not of what is, but from what can be. And that change of direction is the birth of creation. In the fourth dimension, time is not linear but layered. Everything that has ever been or will ever be exists now in a state of potential. There is no waiting, there is no becoming, there is only recognition. The desired outcome exists, and your job is not to build it, but to tune to it. Like a radio receiving a frequency, you must attune your consciousness to the reality you wish to inhabit. You do this not by analyzing the steps, but by assuming the state. Assumption is the great key. It allows you to bypass the illusions of the senses and move directly into the world of your choosing. You must feel yourself to be the person you desire to be, not as a dream, not as a fantasy, but as a living present reality. And once you do, you no longer ask if it will come. You know that it is already done. The world cannot help but reflect what you have accepted as true within. If you are brave enough to disregard appearances and remain loyal to the unseen reality, the present moment will reshape itself. Consider now the role of feeling in this process. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is not a casual emotion. It is a spiritual knowing, a deep inner conviction that what you desire is already yours. It is not hope, and it is not willpower. It is acceptance. And with that acceptance, the inner world becomes more real than the outer. You begin to act from the end, speak from the end, and live from the end, even when nothing around you confirms it. And that is the mark of the fourth dimensional thinker. Many will call it delusion. They will say you are ignoring facts, that you must be realistic. But those who speak this way are trapped in the cycle of effects. They do not understand that facts follow consciousness, not the other way around. What is true in your world is what you consistently accept as true. The present moment has no power of its own. It merely reflects the past assumptions you have entertained. Change your assumptions and the present must follow. This is why two people can face the same circumstance and walk away with entirely different outcomes. One sees possibility, the other sees limitation. One thinks beyond what is visible, the other is confined by it. The first rises, the second remains. The only difference is the dimension from which they are thinking. When you think fourth dimensionally, you know that nothing is fixed. You do not seek change. You embody change. You are no longer a victim of time. You are a participant in eternity. This realization demands a certain discipline. It requires that you monitor your thoughts, guard your inner conversations, and observe your reactions. For every reaction is a reflection of your state. If you react with fear, you affirm the presence of limitation. If you respond with peace, you affirm the state of fulfillment. And over time, these repeated reactions form the structure of your world. That is why change must begin within. Do not wait for the world to prove your new belief. That is backward. The world waits for you to prove your assumption. When you persist in the unseen reality, despite every sensory contradiction, you are not being irrational, you are being creative. You are participating in a higher law, a law that governs not just what is seen, but what is possible. This is the secret of freedom. The present moment is not a verdict, it is a choice. Choose now whom you will be, and let the world adjust itself to your decision. That is how you think fourth dimensionally. Your self-concept is your spiritual address. Where you live in consciousness is where you live in life. Every experience you have, every person you attract, every situation you find yourself in, these are not random occurrences. They are the natural outpicture of the concept you hold of yourself. There is no outer circumstance detached from the inner assumption. You can never receive more than your current self-concept allows, for the law is not broken. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. When you shift your self-concept, you shift the entire direction of your world. It is not about improving the world outside you, it is about changing the man within. If you believe yourself to be limited, lacking, unworthy, you will find 1,000 outer confirmations to validate those beliefs. But the moment you dare to believe yourself powerful, abundant, and loved, the outer world must reflect that inner shift. Your external life is simply a mirror of the beliefs you have accepted about yourself. And this mirror does not lie. It cannot. It has no will of its own. It simply reflects the dominant assumption you carry. To revise your life, you must revise your self-concept. And that revision begins with awareness. You must observe the thoughts you repeat, the identities you cling to, and the stories you tell yourself. Each thought, each word, each inner image is a seed, and these seeds grow not after your desires, but after your beliefs. The self-concept is the soil. It determines what can and cannot grow. When you persist in a new concept of self, you are preparing the ground for a new harvest. This is why no effort on the outside can bring permanent change unless the inside is renewed. A man may get a new job, a new partner, or a new home. But if he carries the same concept of himself, he will recreate the same results in a new form. He has changed scenery, but not identity. It is the self-concept that must evolve. Until then, change is cosmetic. The law responds not to appearances, but to consciousness. Now, observe closely the emotions that arise when you affirm a new identity. If you say, I am wealthy, but feel resistance, that resistance is the old self-concept rejecting the new truth. That feeling is your teacher. It shows you what must be dissolved. You must persist in the new idea until the inner conflict fades and the new state feels natural. The goal is not to fake it. The goal is to become it. When your new identity becomes comfortable, familiar, and automatic, you have moved. The imagination plays a vital role in this process. You must see yourself as the person you intend to be, not just once, not just in moments of hope, but consistently. You must rehearse the new self until it becomes more real than the old. Speak from it, think from it, respond from it. When the new self becomes the reference point for your decisions and reactions, you know you have assumed it. It is also important to understand that no one can hold a concept of you that is more powerful than the one you hold of yourself. People may praise you or criticize you, but unless it aligns with your inner concept, it cannot stick. Others are not creators in your world, they are mirrors. And their behavior toward you will always reflect the signal you are broadcasting from within. This is why you must stop seeking validation. The outer world only confirms what you already believe. To claim a new self-concept is to claim dominion. It is to say, I no longer identify with my past. I no longer accept the labels I once wore. I am not bound by memory. I am free to choose who I am now. This choice is sacred. It is the axis upon which your entire reality turns. Every miracle, every shift, every breakthrough begins here. Now, One must be patient and faithful. The new self-concept must be nurtured. Like a tender seedling, it must be watered with persistence and protected from the weeds of doubt. There will be moments when the old self calls you back. There will be temptations to believe in lack, in limitation, in fear. But the fourth dimensional thinker knows these are shadows. They have no substance. He does not argue with shadows. He turns toward the light of the new state. Speak only from your new identity. Let every word reinforce the new self. Let every thought be aligned with the reality you have chosen to live in. Let every action be an extension of that choice. And soon the world will reflect your decision, not because the world has changed, but because you have changed. You no longer wait for the world to show you who you are. You tell the world who you are, and the world obeys. All transformation is self-transformation. You are not here to fix the world. You are here to realize the truth of your being. And that truth is simple. Your self-concept shapes your world. Change the concept and you change the experience. That is the law, and it is always fulfilled. Your inner conversations are the builders of your world. They are the silent architects that construct the visible events of your life. Most people believe that the words they speak out loud or the actions they take are what shape the reality, but that is only the outermost shell of creation. The real power lies in the quiet, persistent thoughts you entertain when no one is watching. The dialogue you carry in the secrecy of your mind are not harmless. They are creative acts. They are spiritual causes seeking physical effects. If you wish to know what you truly believe about yourself, listen not to what you say, but to what you repeat inwardly. The self-talk, the assumptions, the quiet arguments and affirmations you rehearse. These are the forces that harden into fact. The inner world is the source, and the outer world is the echo. When you condemn yourself inwardly, the world will echo that condemnation. When you uplift yourself within, the world has no choice but to reflect that inner elevation. The law of consciousness does not discriminate between truth and falsehood. It accepts as real that which you persist in feeling and thinking. If your internal speech constantly affirms lack, unworthiness, or limitation, you are cementing those conditions into your world. No matter how much effort you exert outwardly, you will continue to repeat the same cycles until the inner conversation is revised. To live fourth dimensionally, you must take control of your inner speech. This does not mean repressing thoughts, but transforming them. You must become vigilant, not fearful, about what you allow to take root in your mind. The soil of consciousness will grow anything you plant, and your words are seeds. A complaint is a seed, so is a blessing. A judgment, a hope, a wish, all seeds. You cannot plant thorns and expect lilies. If you want to change the harvest, you must change the seed, and the seed is always your internal dialogue. This requires awareness and discipline. You must become a guardian at the gate of your mind. When a thought arises that does not serve your chosen state, do not argue with it, replace it. Do not fight it, outgrow it. Speak only what you want to be true. Say it inwardly until it becomes natural. Let your inner voice speak only from the reality you have assumed. The inner voice does not need to ask permission. It needs to declare truth. Speak from the end, not about it. Do not say, I hope to become wealthy. Say, I am wealth. Say it quietly. Say it often. Say it until it feels like home. The way you talk to yourself determines the way life talks to you. If you are harsh and critical inwardly, do not be surprised when others treat you the same. If you constantly anticipate rejection or failure, you will magnetize those outcomes. But if your inner speech is drenched in kindness, faith, and confidence, your external world must echo that back to you. You are never waiting on the world to change. You are waiting on your self-talk to align with your vision. This is not about pretending or masking your feelings. It is about changing the source of your feelings. When you assume a new state of being and persist in that assumption, your emotions will begin to follow. The feelings arise naturally when the self-concept is renewed. Your inner conversations are what activate that renewal. They are not just thoughts. They are emotional blueprints. They carry the tone, the vibration, the energy of your belief. And energy cannot lie. Energy must manifest. What you feel inwardly must become visible outwardly. If you wish to be loved, speak inwardly as one who is loved. Imagine the conversations you would have if you already possess the thing you desire. Feel the delight, the peace, the confidence of one who knows that it's already done. These imagined dialogues become your new identity, and when identity changes, it is common for people to repeat their current facts through inner dialogue. They walk through life mentally repeating how unfair life is, how stuck they feel, how impossible their dreams appear. They are not aware that by doing so, they are affirming and recreating the very thing they wish to escape. You must break that pattern. You must interrupt it with intention. Begin speaking as the person you choose to be, not the one you fear you are. Shift your internal conversations toward your desired reality. Even when the world contradicts your assumption, even when no evidence appears, you must persist. The inner voice must hold its tone. The words you speak in private are more powerful than the ones you announce publicly because they are pure, they are direct, they are repeated, and repetition creates dominion. You are reprogramming your subconscious every time you think a thought or speak a word. Let your new programming match your vision. The world will not change first. It will not give you permission before you believe. You must first believe, and then the world conforms. It mirrors you. It reflects not what you want, but what you are being internally. Change what you are being, and the mirror changes. The greatest secret is that you are always speaking things into existence, sometimes in ignorance, sometimes in faith. Control your inner speech, and you control your destiny. Let the voice within you no longer echo the world of facts, but proclaim the world of imagination. Speak love, speak abundance, speak freedom, speak peace, and you will become the living embodiment of the words you dared to believe. Time, as it is commonly understood, is a misperception, a mental construct shaped by the five senses. It appears to move linearly from past to present to future, and within this illusion, man becomes a prisoner of delay. He believes that his desires will come true someday, that manifestation is dependent on waiting, that the passage of hours and days must bring the thing into being. But when one begins to think fourth dimensionally, this entire view of time is transformed. It is no longer seen as a flowing river, but as a still ocean where all moments exist at once, layered upon each other, accessible not through waiting, but through assumption. The past, present, and future are not separate events, but simultaneous states, already existing and waiting for one thing only: conscious recognition. In the fourth dimension, time is not a ruler of life, it is a servant of imagination. What you experience today is not the result of a timeline moving forward. It is the effect of your consciousness tuning into a state that has always existed. Every possibility is already real, already complete, already fixed in the invisible realm. There is nothing to create, nothing to chase, only something to occupy. You do not bring your desire into the future. You bring your awareness into the feeling of its fulfillment now, and in doing so collapse time. The interval between desire and manifestation shortens as your belief in its reality strengthens. When you say, "One day I'll be successful," you've projected your power into a distant, undefined future. That statement acknowledges your separation from the state of success. You do not yet believe it is yours. You have placed it beyond reach and tied it to the clock. But the fourth dimensional man says, "I am successful now," not because the world agrees, but because he has assumed the state within. An assumption is the bridge that spans the gap between now and next. It does not wait for the physical to approve. It declares the end as real, and the outer world must eventually comply. This is why the question of when should be dissolved. It is the wrong question. It is born from the third dimensional view that believes in becoming rather than being. There is no when in creation. There is only now. The present moment is not a place of arrival, but a platform of choice. You can stand on this moment and decide to feel lack, or you can stand on it and feel abundance. The power is always in the present, because the present is where you assume, and what you assume now determines what you see later. The future is not something that comes to you, it is something that unfolds through you. based on the state you currently occupy. Your senses will argue against this truth. They will report back to you all the reasons why nothing has changed. They will echo the facts of yesterday and dress them in the disguise of today. But those facts are only the evidence of a former state. They are not permanent. They are projections of previous assumptions crystallized into visibility. To give power to these facts is to worship your past, but to think fourth dimensionally is to revere only your imagination. The senses report what is. Imagination reveals what can be, and in the fourth dimension, what can be is already real. You cannot move forward while believing in delay. Delay is a trick of consciousness. The moment you say something is on its way, you have confessed its absence. You must deny the delay and declare it done. You must feel it as now. This feeling of knownness is the secret key. Do not imagine the event happening in the future. Imagine it happening now. See it, touch it, hear the words, smell the air, taste the joy of completion. Embody the scene in full detail and then rest. The moment you feel it real, creation is complete. There is no struggle in the fourth dimension. There is only alignment. When your awareness aligns with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are in harmony with the future you desire. That version of reality becomes inevitable not through effort, but through assumption. It is like tuning a radio. You do not create the frequency, you simply match it. And when your inner frequency matches the state you desire, the external world reconfigures to reflect that alignment. People ask, what must I do to speed it up? But the question is flawed. There is nothing to speed up. There is only something to accept. The greater your acceptance of the fulfilled desire, the shorter the delay. The more you try, the more you confess disbelief. Manifestation is not earned by effort, it is claimed by knowing. And knowing has no need to push. It dwells in stillness. It trusts the unseen process because it knows the end already exists. Time then is not your master. It is your mirror. It shows you what you truly believe. If your life appears slow to change, it is not because life is slow. It is because the inner shift has not yet become stable. The moment you stabilize the feeling of being the one who has it, the reflection must follow. Let go of time. Let go of waiting. Let go of the lie that tomorrow holds your good. It is here. Vision of the state boldly. Live from it faithfully, and you'll discover that time is not a line you walk, but a canvas you paint. One feeling at a time. Imagination is not an idle fancy, nor is it a tool to be used only when convenient. It is the divine center of all creation. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you experience, first began as an act of imagination. It is through imagination that the unseen becomes seen, that the intangible becomes tangible, that the formless becomes form. You are not simply thinking images, you are giving birth to them. The world you now live in is the outpicturing of your past imaginal activity. What you held in mind with feeling, what you believe to be true inwardly, has taken shape in the outer world as your life. If you wish to know what you have imagined, look around you. The evidence is everywhere. Imagination is the creative act of consciousness. It is not fantasy. It is not fiction. It is spirit in motion. You do not need tools or rituals to create. You need only imagination and belief. With imagination, you can penetrate beyond appearances and give form to realities not yet visible. You can construct scenes, dialogue, emotions, all within the workshop of the mind. And these inner acts are as real, if not more real, than the facts you see with your eye. The world does not originate from the outer. The outer is the echo. The inner is the voice. What you imagine, you become. What you persist in imagining, you must express. The average man imagines unconsciously. He dreams of what he wants without consistency, and his mind drifts to fears and doubts when left unattended. He does not realize that this fluctuation is the reason for the delay or distortion of his desires. But the fourth dimensional man imagines with intent. He does not hope that imagination will work. He knows it is the only power that works. He builds within his mind the exact state he wishes to express, and inhabits it fully. He sees the scene, feels the scene, walks in the scene until it is more real to him than the world around him. And when that inner scene becomes natural, inevitable, and familiar, it is only a matter of time before it objectifies. To create effectively, one must imagine not just the desire, but the fulfillment of the desire. Do not see yourself trying to become successful. See yourself as successful. Feel the handshake, hear the congratulations, smell the fragrance in the air of a fulfilled moment. Speak inwardly to people congratulating you. Let your mind accept that it has already occurred. The senses may deny it, the facts may argue against it, but remain loyal to the imaginal act, for that act is the seed of manifestation. Imagination fused with feeling is the formula of creation. It is not enough to see, you must feel it to be real. There is a sacred rhythm to imagination. It begins in silence. It grows in faith. It manifests in certainty. You must take time each day to step away from the noise of facts and enter the silence of inner creation. Close your eyes and withdraw from the world of appearances. There, in that sacred inner space, craft the life you desire. Choose the state deliberately. Build the scene intentionally. And most importantly, dwell in the feeling of its reality. The more time you spend in the fulfilled state, the more power you give to its expression. You do not imagine to escape reality, you imagine to shape it. Imagination is not a retreat, it is an advancement. When the world denies your desire, that is the moment to deepen your imaginal practice. When the facts scream impossibility, go deeper within. Because the louder the resistance on the outside, the closer you are to the birth of the new condition. Do not allow appearances to rob you of your inner certainty. Remember, appearances are only past imaginations clothed in matter. Change the root, and the branches must follow. Imagination is not bound by time or space. It does not need permission from the senses to act. You can sit in your room and imagine yourself across the world. You can lie in your bed and experience wealth, love, health, and joy. And if you do so with full acceptance, your outer world will move to accommodate the new assumption. Invisible bridges of incidents will unfold to bring you exactly where you have already arrived in consciousness. Do not worry about how. That is not your domain. Your role is to imagine the end and dwell in it. The universe will organize the means. All progress, all invention, all evolution begins in the imaginal realm. Great artists, thinkers, and visionaries have always known this truth. They see what others do not. They believe what others dismiss. They act not from the evidence of the senses, but from the conviction of what they have seen within. You are no different. The same power that animated them lives in you. The difference lies not in capacity, but in awareness. Begin to use your imagination as a sacred tool, not as a distraction or fantasy, but as the sculptor of your fate. Imagine lovingly. Imagine boldly. Imagine persistently. And what you dare to imagine, you will surely live. The power is in your hands, or more accurately, in your mind. Imagination is the mirror of your spirit. Guard it. Direct it. And above all, trust it. The world you desire is waiting not to be found, but to be formed. Form it first within, and reality will follow. Repetition is the stabilizer of reality. What you repeat with feeling becomes fixed in consciousness and eventually expresses itself in form. It is not the fleeting thought or the momentary burst of faith that shapes your world. It is the persistent, unwavering occupancy of a state through repetition that plants the seed deeply enough for it to bear fruit. Just as water wears away stone through consistent flow, repetition sculpts the invisible into the visible. When you dwell repeatedly in the end, when you continually revisit the feeling of already being the one you wish to be, you reinforce the assumption. And what is reinforced internally becomes embodied externally. The conscious mind may wander and the senses may contradict, but repetition brings the inner world into clarity. It quiets the noise of doubt. It builds new neural patterns. It re-educates the subconscious. The subconscious mind does not choose what to believe. It accepts what is repeated with conviction. And it is this repetition, combined with feeling, that causes the new belief to take root. The first time you affirm something new, it may feel false. The second time, it may still feel foreign. But the 50th time, it begins to feel familiar. And the 100th time, it becomes natural. When a thought becomes natural, it becomes real. You cannot visit the new state once and expect the world to change. A single visit may plant the seed, but the harvest requires nurturing. Repetition is that nurturing. You must return again and again to the scene, to the emotion, to the assumption. Not with strain, but with confidence. Not with desperation, but with knowing. You're not begging reality to conform. You are commanding it through the law of being. The more you dwell in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the more you impress it upon the subconscious, and the more life begins to arrange itself in harmony with your inner decree. Repetition is the bridge from imagination to manifestation. It is the unseen scaffolding upon which your new world is built. Each time you close your eyes and step into the end, you are laying another brick. Each time you speak from the state of fulfillment, you are strengthening the structure. Each time you resist the pull of doubt and return to your imagined reality, you are reinforcing the truth. You are not starting over, you are adding to what has already been built. This is why faith must become a habit, and inner vision must become routine. Your world will never move beyond what you continually affirm as true. It is not difficult to see why so many fail to manifest their desires. They plant the seed but abandon it. They water the idea once but never return. They affirm a new identity in the morning and curse their circumstances by afternoon. Such inconsistency creates a divided mind, and a divided mind cannot build anything lasting. But the man who persists, who returns daily, hourly, moment by moment to his vision of the fulfilled state, he is the one who sees the transformation. He knows that each repetition is a declaration to the universe. This is who I am. This is what I claim. This is what I accept as real. The outer world does not move quickly because the inner conviction has not been stabilized. Repetition brings that stability. When a new assumption is repeated long enough, it becomes a law in your world. The subconscious mind treats repeated thought as command. You are programming it every time you imagine, affirm, or feel something with intensity and frequency. That is why rituals, habits, and daily visioning practices are so powerful, not because they impress the universe, but because they impress the subconscious. And the subconscious, once impressed, must express. The more you repeat the desired state, the more you begin to act from it. Your decisions change. Your tone changes. Your posture, your habits, your responses all begin to reflect the new assumption. And this behavioral shift is not forced. It is effortless because you are no longer pretending to be someone else. You have become it. The repetition has worn away the resistance. What was once a discipline has become a delight. You are now naturally aligned with the state, and nature must mirror what has been inwardly stabilized. Some feel repetition because they associate it with struggle, but true repetition is joyful. It is not mechanical. It is alive. Each visit to your desired state is a reaffirmation of your power. Each time you enter the scene in imagination, it becomes more vivid, more real, more permanent. You are not repeating to convince yourself. You are repeating to express yourself. You are not trying to make something happen. You are remembering that it already has. The man who masters repetition masters his fate, for he understands that life is not governed by chance, but by rhythm. And he who controls the rhythm of his thoughts, the rhythm of his assumptions, the rhythm of his inner state, commands the rhythm of his life. The outer world is not separate. It is the echo of your inner pulse. And that pulse is regulated through repetition. The more constant the beat, the clearer the reflection. The more harmonious the rhythm, the smoother the manifestation. To think fourth dimensionally is to realize that the real creation takes place in repetition, not in bursts of faith, not in sudden efforts, but in the gentle, repeated assumption of the end. With each repetition, you deepen the groove in consciousness. With each visit, you become more rooted in the state, and what is rooted within must eventually bloom without. Your assumption is greater than facts. This truth, once grasped, becomes a cornerstone of creative mastery. The facts of life, the appearances, the circumstances, the conditions, are not the source of your reality. They are the result. They are shadows of your past assumptions given form. They appear solid, they appear permanent, but they are only temporary arrangements that respond to the inner declarations you have made and accepted as true. To be a four-dimensional thinker is to no longer worship the outer world, but to command it from within. It is to walk through the facts while knowing they are not final. It is to carry the awareness that you are the cause and all things seen are simply the outpictured echo of what you've dared to assume. The average man is ruled by facts. He looks at what is and concludes what will be. If the bank account shows lack, he assumes poverty. If the body aches, he assumes illness. If the relationship ends, he assumes loss. And from these assumptions, he builds his next experience: more lack, more illness, more loss. But when you awaken to your creative power, you realize that no fact has power unless you give it power. A fact is not truth. It is merely evidence of a form of belief. It has no authority over you unless you continue to serve it with attention and belief. You may acknowledge its presence, but you do not surrender to it. You observe it without emotional consent. You let the fact be, while you remain loyal to the assumption that contradicts it. Your assumption is your seed, and just as a seed placed in soil begins an invisible process that eventually becomes visible, your assumption placed in the field of consciousness starts a chain reaction in the world of form. The outer facts may scream the opposite. The world may reflect the exact thing you no longer desire. But if you remain faithful to the assumption, if you carry it in your mind and feel it as true, it will override the facts. It must. Because the world conforms not to what is factual, but what is assumed with persistence and feeling. It is in this understanding that your true freedom lies. You are not trapped by your past. You are not condemned to repeat conditions. You are free to assume anything. No one can deny you the right to imagine. And once you assume a new reality, that assumption, though invisible, is a spiritual act. It is a declaration of what must come to pass. But you must not be shaken by contradiction. You must not be lured back into believing what your senses report. The senses are servants, not masters. They report old news. They echo former states. But you are not obligated to believe them. You are free to assume again, and again, and again. The assumption is not wishful thinking. It is not hoping something might happen. It is knowing that it already has. It is stepping into the identity of the one who already possesses the desire. It is speaking as that person, acting as that person, feeling as that person, not in pretense, but in truth. Because in the realm of imagination, there is no separation. What you feel real inwardly must eventually be experienced outwardly. It is law. To assume is to create, but to sustain the assumption when the world contradicts it, that is mastery. Most people assume something for a moment and then abandon it when facts do not immediately comply. They say, it's not working, and return to the old belief. But the old belief was built on repetition, and the new one must be, too. You must carry the new assumption like a flame, protecting it from the winds of doubt and the storms of delay. You must remain faithful to it, not because the world affirms it, but because you know that assumption is the cause, and the world is merely the delayed effect. Imagine you are in a theater, and the scene on stage displeases you. You do not walk onto the stage and rearrange the props. You go back to the script. You rewrite the story. You change the dialogue. You revise the characters, and soon a new scene will play. So it is with your life. The facts on stage are only playing out the script you've accepted within. Change the script, and the scene must follow. Your assumption is the script. Guard it, refine it, persist in it, and the scene must obey. Even when appearances defy your vision, let the assumption stand. Even when facts laugh in your face, let the assumption remain. For it is not by reacting to facts that you change the world, but by assuming a higher truth that you force the world to catch up. You are not predicting the future, you are selecting it. You are not responding to conditions, you are dictating them. And all of this is done inwardly, silently, and faithfully. Let others bow to the facts. You remain above them. Let others explain why something cannot happen. You assume it already has. Let others wait for evidence. You walk in fulfillment. That is the path of the fourth dimensional thinker. That is the creative act. And that is the power of assumption. You are not a servant of reality. You are its origin. The life you now live, the conditions you now face, and the people you now encounter are all shaped by the dimension from which you think. If you continue to think from appearances, you will be forever bound by them. But if you rise in consciousness, if you dare to think from the end, to speak from fulfillment, to live as though your desire were already true, then you begin to see the world as it truly is, a mirror reflecting the states you assume. This lesson is not to be studied and left behind. It is to be lived. Thinking fourth dimensionally is not a technique. It is a way of being. It is the understanding that time bends to consciousness, that reality is pliable, and that the inner world governs all. You are the operant power. You are the cause, and nothing can take from you the right to assume a greater life. So walk now as the one who already is. Assume boldly, speak faithfully, return often to the scene of your fulfilled desire, and let repetition shape it into your natural state. Trust imagination, for it is the divine center within you. Time is your servant. Facts are your echo. The moment you assume, creation begins. You are free to choose. Choose wisely and choose now.